Chicago's Meigs Field opened in 1948 and quickly became one of the most recognizable small airports in the country, thanks in part to its location on a man-made peninsula right off the Lake Michigan shoreline. With its single runway and sweeping views of downtown Chicago, Meigs was used heavily by business travelers and once even appeared as the default airport in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Despite its popularity, the airport was controversially shut down in 2003 when the mayor had the runway bulldozed overnight, citing security concerns. Today, the site has been turned into Northerly Island Park, a nature preserve and concert venue. Only the faint outline of the old runway remains visible in aerial photos. Stapleton International Airport in Denver opened in 1929 and was once one of the busiest airports in the country. Known for its 6 runways, open-air concourses, and the distinctive air traffic control tower that stood like a beacon, it served as Denver's main airport for 65 years. But by the 1990s, it was too small for the growing city, and after much delay, it closed in 1995 when Denver International Airport opened. Today, Stapleton has been redeveloped into a residential neighborhood called Central Park. The old control tower still stands and has been converted into a restaurant. Some of the original runways and taxiways are now walking trails and streets. Alameda Naval Air Station opened in 1940 on the western edge of Alameda, California, and played a major role in World War II and the Cold War as a hub for aircraft carriers and military aviation. It featured long runways stretching into the San Francisco Bay and massive aircraft hangars. The base was decommissioned in 1997, and although much of the site has remained largely vacant, parts of it have been reused for film sets and TV shows, the likes of which include The Matrix and Mythbusters. One hangar now houses a distillery, and the former runways have hosted everything from car races to tech events. The iconic airfield layout is still visible, but the roar of jets is long gone. Florida's Everglades Jetport began construction in 1968 and was intended to be the largest airport in the world, bigger than JFK and LAX combined. Designed to serve supersonic aircraft, only one runway was completed before environmental concerns halted the project in the early 1970s. That single runway, deep in the Florida wetlands, became known as Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport. Today, it's used only for flight training and touch-and-go exercises. No terminal, no control tower, just a vast concrete strip in the middle of the swamp. The grand dream of the world's largest airport was left behind in favor of preserving the Everglades. Floyd Bennett Field in Brooklyn, New York, opened in 1931 as the city's first municipal airport. It was used by famous aviators like Amelia Earhart and Howard Hughes, and later became a key Navy air station during World War II. With Art Deco hangars and military barracks, it was once a bustling center of aviation. It closed to air traffic in 1971 and is now part of the Gateway National Recreation Area. The original runways and hangars remain, and visitors can walk through the grounds, visit the old control tower, or explore vintage aircraft on display. It's a rare case where an old airport has become a preserved public park. The TWA Flight Center at JFK Airport opened in 1962 and instantly became a landmark with its futuristic design by Eero Saarinen. Shaped like a giant bird in flight, the terminal was famous for its sweeping curves and mid-century modern style. It closed in 2001 when TWA ceased operations and sat unused for years. Rather than tearing it down, developers converted it into the TWA Hotel, which opened in 2019. It now houses a restored Lockheed Constellation airplane used as a cocktail lounge, and the interior has been preserved with period details like rotary phones and sunken lounge seating. It's one of the few terminals in America turned into a hotel. Roosevelt Field in Long Island was established in 1911 and became world famous in 1927 as the place Charles Lindbergh took off on his solo flight across the Atlantic. For decades after, it was a major training and commercial airport. But by the 1950s, development pressure and commercial demand led to its closure, and the site was redeveloped into Roosevelt Field Mall, which opened in 1956. Today, it's one of the largest shopping malls in the country. A small plaque commemorates Lindbergh's flight, But most visitors have no idea they're standing on the site of one of aviation's most historic moments. Austin-Bergstrom International Airport, opened in 1999, sits on the grounds of the former Bergstrom Air Force Base, which had operated since 1942. Originally used by the Army Air Corps and later the Strategic Air Command, the base was known for its long runway and role in Cold War readiness. When it was closed in 1993, the city saw an opportunity. The airport reused some of the military infrastructure and opened with a distinctly Texan feel, complete with live music stages and barbecue restaurants in the terminal. Today, it's one of the fastest-growing airports in the U.S., serving millions each year, a far cry from its military past. College Park Airport in Maryland has a distinction no other American airport can claim. It's the oldest continuously operating airport in the world. Opened in 1909 by the Wright brothers to train military pilots, it started as a dirt strip and grew into an active hub for early aviation innovation. Today, it remains operational, though limited to small aircraft. The surrounding area now includes a museum that tells the story of early flight. The field has been reduced in size over time, but its history is unmatched, and it's one of the few places where you can still fly a plane from a runway built before World War I. Richards-Gebaur Air Force Base in Belton, Missouri, started life as Grandview Airport in 1941 before being taken over by the military in 1952. It was home to a series of fighter squadrons and was a key part of the country's air defense system during the Cold War. The base closed in 1994, and the site went through various reuse attempts. Today, most of the area has been converted into an intermodal freight facility operated by the Kansas City Southern Railway, and some portions are used by the National Guard. The old control tower still stands, but the military jets are long gone, replaced by trains and cargo trucks. Merrill Field in Anchorage, Alaska, opened in 1930 and served as the city's original airport before Anchorage International took over commercial flights in the 1950s. Built on the site of a former golf course, Merrill Field was the center of aviation in Alaska's early days and was named after Anchorage's first pilot, Russell Merrill. The field once hosted everything from small bush planes to large military aircraft during World War II. Today, it continues as a general aviation airport with over 500 based aircraft and is often used for flight training and regional flying. Parts of old aircraft are even embedded in one of its taxiways for experimental research in runway materials. Newark Liberty International Airport in New Jersey opened in 1928 and was once the busiest commercial airport in the world during the 1930s. With its original Art Deco terminal and close proximity to Manhattan, it served as a key port for airmail and early passenger flights. Though much has changed, Newark remains one of the country's major international gateways. Its original terminal building was demolished in the 1950s, but the airport has grown with newer terminals and runways. It was renamed Liberty after the September 11th attacks in honor of the victims and New Jersey's role in the recovery effort. Dallas Love Field began operations in 1917 as an Army airfield and was converted for civilian use in the 1920s. It served as Dallas's main airport for decades and gained national attention in 1963 as the airport where President John F. Kennedy arrived before his assassination. The airport was also the site where Lyndon B. Johnson took the oath of office aboard Air Force One. Love Field saw a major decline after DFW Airport opened in 1974, but restrictions were eventually lifted, and Love Field underwent a massive modernization. Today, it's a busy hub for Southwest Airlines and retains its place in history with a preserved terminal section from the JFK era. Crissy Field in San Francisco started as a U.S. Army airfield in 1921 and was one of the earliest military air bases on the West Coast. Positioned right on the northern edge of the Presidio, it featured a grass runway and hangars overlooking the Golden Gate. It supported military aviation through World War II, but was decommissioned in the 1970s. The field was later restored as part of the Golden Gate National Recreation Area and reopened in 2001 as a public park. The runway is now a grassy promenade and the old hangars house museums and cafes. It's one of the few places where a former military airfield became a popular waterfront park. Naval Air Station South Weymouth in Massachusetts opened in 1942 and was originally built to support blimps used in anti-submarine patrols during World War II. After the war, it was repurposed for aircraft squadrons and later served the Naval Air Reserve. Its massive blimp hangars were among the largest wooden structures in the world. The base closed in 1997 and sat mostly vacant for years. Redevelopment has since transformed parts of it into Union Point, a mixed-use community, though many areas remain undeveloped. The skeleton of one hangar still stands, slowly being reclaimed by nature. Lowry Air Force Base in Denver opened in 1938 and was named after a Denver native who died in a flight accident. It became a major training base for bomber crews during World War II and was later known for training missile technicians during the Cold War. With its large hangars and technical schools, Lowry was a key part of American military education. After its closure in 1994, the base was converted into a residential neighborhood. Today, the Lowry community features parks, museums, and schools, with several original hangars still standing. One now houses the Wings Over the Rockies Air and Space Museum. Galeville Military Airfield in New York was built in the early 1940s during World War II and used primarily for training bomber crews and emergency landings. The airfield featured long concrete runways and auxiliary buildings in the rural town of Shawangunk. It was abandoned in the 1970s and never fully developed afterward. Rather than being demolished, the area was turned into the Shawangunk Grasslands National Wildlife Refuge. Today, birdwatchers come to see rare grassland birds where aircraft once taxied and took off. The old runways are now used as walking trails through a thriving natural habitat. Brooks Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas, was founded in 1918 as a balloon training site during World War I and later became an important center for aerospace medicine. For decades, Brooks was home to groundbreaking research in human physiology, spaceflight effects, and pilot health. In 2002, it was rebranded as Brooks City Base in an effort to blend military and civilian use. But the Air Force fully departed in 2011. Today, the area is known simply as Brooks, a developing community with residential, commercial, and educational facilities. The legacy of aviation medicine remains through a preserved historic district. Brookley Air Force Base in Mobile, Alabama, opened in the 1930s and became a critical logistics and maintenance hub during World War II and the early Cold War. The base closed in 1969, but the airfield was preserved. Today, the site is known as the Mobile Aeroplex at Brookley, an industrial and aerospace complex that hosts companies like Airbus, which builds commercial jets there. The transformation from a Cold War military base to a modern aircraft manufacturing center is one of the most complete in the country. Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport, opened in 1920, began its life on the grounds of an old auto racetrack called Speedway Field. Originally used for airmail, the airport quickly expanded to accommodate growing passenger demand. Over the decades, it became a major hub for Northwest Airlines and later Delta. Though it has been heavily modernized, MSP still operates from its original location and features two main terminals. One unusual fact, it's located within the boundaries of a U.S. military cemetery, Fort Snelling, which borders the field. Today, MSP is known for its efficiency, cleanliness, and ongoing expansions, but its roots in racing are long forgotten. Miller Airport in Bridgewater, Massachusetts, opened in 1946 as a small, privately owned general aviation field serving the southeastern part of the state. With its single grass runway and a couple of modest hangars, Miller Airport was a quiet spot mostly used by private pilots and flight instructors. It never expanded beyond its simple setup and was eventually closed in 1996. Today, the land has been completely redeveloped and is now the site of a Target shopping center and several smaller retail businesses. Little remains of the airport's presence, just a stretch of flat land where the runway once lay. LaGuardia Airport in New York opened in 1939 and quickly became a major hub for domestic air travel, especially on the East Coast. Built on the site of the old Gala amusement park and a landfill in Queens, it featured a striking marine air terminal decorated with aviation-themed murals and originally served flying boats. LaGuardia was famous for its cramped layout and aging facilities, but a multi-billion-dollar renovation completed in the early 2020s dramatically modernized the airport. The new terminals feature more space, natural light, and modern amenities, though it still doesn't allow most international flights due to its short runways. Chanute Air Force Base in Rantoul, Illinois, opened in 1917 as one of the oldest military aviation training fields in the country. It played a key role in training aircraft mechanics and weather service personnel, and was known for its handsome brick buildings and long stretches of hangars. After the Cold War, the base closed in 1993. Much of the land has since been repurposed for civilian use, though many buildings were left abandoned for years. Today, the Octave Chanute Aerospace Museum, once located there, has also closed, and the town continues working on redevelopment plans with parts used for housing and light industry. George Air Force Base in Victorville, California, was activated in 1941 and served for decades as a tactical air command training center for fighter pilots. Located in the high desert, it featured long runways, missile training areas, and served as a Vietnam-era combat training hub. After its closure in 1992, the site struggled with contamination cleanup and redevelopment issues. Today, the area is known as Southern California Logistics Airport, and some portions of the base have been repurposed for aircraft storage, testing, and cargo operations. The old barracks and housing areas still stand but are mostly vacant and overgrown. Cleveland Hopkins International Airport opened in 1925 and holds a special place in aviation history as the first airport in the U.S. with an air traffic control tower and the first to be directly connected to a city's rapid transit system. Originally featuring a modest terminal and grassy runways, the airport expanded through the decades and became a major hub for United and later Continental Airlines. Though it no longer serves as a hub, Hopkins remains Cleveland's main airport and still retains its original name. The terminal has been modernized, and the airport is undergoing long-term plans for expansion and further improvements. Naval Air Station Glencoe in Brunswick, Georgia, began operations in 1942 and was primarily used for training blimp pilots during World War II. It also served as a radar and air traffic control training site throughout the Cold War. After the base was decommissioned in 1974, the runways were converted into a civilian airport, and the remaining land became home to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, which now trains thousands of agents annually. Today, the airport is known as Brunswick Golden Isles Airport and serves regional flights, while the training center is one of the largest employers in the area. The massive blimp hangar that once stood there was demolished, but its legacy remains. Did you enjoy time traveling with me through the airports of yesteryear? Hit that subscribe button so you're first in line for my next nostalgic ride.